If you get your spring rates right for the type of four-wheel drive you're going to be driving, you won't only maximise your lift, but your car will drive so much better. Folks, do you want to save a bit of money on your four-wheel drive build? Well, you've got to watch this video because today we're going to be installing a lift kit using common garage tools. Now, I'm down here at Fulcrum, and yes, we've got a hoist behind us, but we're not going to be using that today. We are going to do this full install on the floor, just like you would at home. However, we're about halfway through this install right now. I want to take you right back to the start. So let's go to the beginning. We've got a mate's four-wheel drive here, and we're going to show you how to install a lift kit at home. Before we get started, let's run through the kit we're fitting. We've got new Formula front and rear shocks, rear leaf springs and coils for the front, plus replacement Super Pro bushes for all the joints. Folks, before we get started, I wanted to give you the first big tip, and that is before you buy your lift kit, make sure you talk to some industry experts like the guys here at Fulcrum. Tell them what you're going to be carrying, how much your car's going to weigh, and what you're going to be towing. That way they can send you out a kit like this one here with the correct spring rates. If you get your spring rates right for the type of four-wheel drive you're going to be driving, you won't only maximise your lift, but your car will drive so much better. Rightio folks, it is time to get stuck into it, but before we do, it is worth remembering all four-wheel drives are different. So today, we're going to be sticking to the tips and techniques that are common across most four-wheel drives. If you want to speak about your specific four-wheel drive, I really recommend you get in touch with the experts like the guys here at Fulcrum, and they will help you out. For now, let's get on the tools. The first step, of course, is to measure from the centre of the wheel to the bottom edge of the guard. The reason you measure from those points is that it doesn't matter if you have 32s, 33s or 35s. And of course, the reason we're making these measurements is so that we can figure out exactly how much lift we put in before and after the lift kit. It's going to chock these front wheels because Shane's about to jack up the rear of the vehicle, which of course means we ain't got no handbrake anymore. We don't want this vehicle to move forward. Step 1 is to support the pinion or the front of the rear diff with a bottle jack. This will allow you to easily undo the bolts for the shock absorbers and the U-bolts. Make sure where you are jacking is strong enough to take the weight of the vehicle. Jack the rear of the vehicle until the springs come away from the diff. Place your axle stands under the chassis rail to support the chassis. Lower the jack onto the axle stands and remove the jack from under the vehicle. So folks, what we've got right here is the Super Pro greasable shackle kit. As you can see, Shane's putting the grease on there now, and it's actually far less grease than you might think. Only a small smear needed. You put the grease on any surface, I'll grab the right one, any surface that's going to touch metal. So here, of course, outside, inside for the pin. The one thing I love about these greasable shackles is that they've inverted the grease nipple so that it's protected and hidden away. So if you do get a bit over ambitious on the old rock steps, you can't hurt those grease nipples. Mate, what are you stopping for? You've got a few to go. Keep going. The greasable shackle kit comes with instructions for assembly. It's a good idea to have a vise to hold the pin while you tighten it, as you need to make sure the nut and grease nipple are tight. Folks, one thing to keep in the back of your mind is that if your greasable shackles are not offset, it means you can place them in either direction. What I mean by that is with the grease nipple facing outwards or inwards. Why is that important? Well, these are serviceable items and you need to be able to get to them with your grease gun. So if it's easier from one side than the other, swap them around and make your life easier. All right, the last little piece of the puzzle here. You can see how much play we've got in this rear diff here. Now, on the springs, there is a centre bolt that is going to have to be placed into a locating hole in the diff. Failure to do that will mean that things will move around. So we are now going to lower this car down ever so slowly. There you go. And that works an absolute treat. Now it's time to install the base plates, U-bolts and the new shocks. Make sure the bolts are tensioned before removing the jacks and stands and moving to the front. Now for the front. The first step is to find a secure place to jack up from, like under the chassis rail. Lift the front wheels off the ground approximately 2 inches and lower the vehicle down onto axle stands. Remove wheels from the vehicle and undo the CV's outer nut. Now, the next step is a bit more technical, so Shane's going to jump in and explain a few things.
So now that we've undone the CV nut, what we're going to do next is we're actually going to undo all the ABS brackets and the brake line brackets off the knuckle, so when it comes apart, we don't stretch them.
Each vehicle is different, and to make sure there is plenty of slack on the ABS lines, some vehicles may require you to remove the caliper from the rotor.
What we're doing now is we're just going to split this upper ball joint. Now we won't leave this on by a couple of threads. Now what we do is we hit right here with a hammer. Okay, the trick to this is actually just to give it a good shock, yeah? So, you see how it just pops? So now what we do is push slightly down on the arm, wind that nut off the last couple of threads, ta-da, it's separated. So now it's separated, all you need to do is give that CV a bit of a push as it comes down so it doesn't separate the inner CV joint.
Undo all the strut mount bolts, remove the strut from the vehicle and replace with the new Formula Ready struts. Make sure you leave the lower strut mount bolts loose. This will be tightened later. You then need to put the jack under the lower control arm and lift until the upper ball joints meet. Reassemble the upper ball joint and then reattach your brake lines and ABS. When you're putting the CV nut back on, don't forget the locking ring and a new split pin. Put the wheel back on the vehicle and then repeat the process for the other side. It's best to have a wheel on one side while working on the other. It's important to remember that straight after you've put your lift kit in, you must get a wheel alignment done. And after 1,000 kilometres, check your wheel alignment and check your work. If you don't have time to fit it yourself, remember you can always get the Fulcrum team to do it for you. And they'll give you a 1,000 kilometre free check. Well, there you go, folks. I hope the tips and techniques in this video has made the install of your lift kit just that little bit easier. As always, though, if you've got any questions at all, please put them in the comments down below and we'll get Shane and the crew from Fulcrum to get right onto them. Till next time, cheers. We've worked with our mates at Fulcrum Suspensions to get you a special deal on any lift kit on their website. Head to their website and use the code ACTIONLIFT at checkout to get your discount. Loving this week's video, next week's is going to blow you away. That's right, we're heading to Victoria in search of the state's toughest tracks, and we found them: huge ruts, mud, cracking camping, and this.
Oh, this is the biggest lane I have ever been on.
Don't miss our latest adventure, free on YouTube.